The apostles said to the Lord, "Increase our faith." And Jesus tells them how, if they had even the smallest faith, it would be enough to command a tree to uproot itself and to throw itself into the ocean. Is faith then like a superpower? Can I command nature if I have enough faith? If I have faith, then I can save my family from death by commanding the body to heal, or to reverse the aging process, or to digest food properly. Yet, we know that that is not how faith works. Faith is not a superpower that allows us to perform magical deeds. Or more accurately, we are not superheroes just because we have faith. Rather, faith entails a joyful dependence on God, and God is the one who leads us by the hand through struggle and all. Faith is a powerful trait. Faith enables us to weather the worst in our lives, trusting God to lead us through despite all of the difficulties. Even when it seems like all the lights have gone out and there is no hope of escape, say from economic hardship, as we lose our jobs and homes, faith empowers us to look past all of our troubles and focus on the power of the Lord and His saving hand. Yet, faith does not guarantee that all of our wishes will be fulfilled. God is not a personal genie waiting for us to ask Him for the flimsiest of favors, so long as we behave and do not sin. If it were the case that good behavior won God's favor, Christ would not have died on the cross. In order to temper this temptation to think that faith is a superpower, Christ follows up his claim about commanding nature with the demands of servanthood in today's gospel. At first look, it sounds as if the servant who just finished a full day's work must then be asked to wait at table before he can eat. We think that he is treated unfairly by the master. In today's time, when we do not have rigid class systems, we might think the master is being unfair. To help with this understanding, I suggest we think about a musical instrument, like a trumpet. Everything about the trumpet is focused on making a beautiful sound. The shape of the pipes, the different size valves and buttons, and even the bell at the very end that projects the sound. All of it works together to make music that is pleasing to the ear. Despite the various aspects of the trumpet, it depends entirely upon the musician to make music. Without the musician, the trumpet merely collects dust. If, however, there is a dent in the pipes, or a gunk that is built up within the pipes, then the sound is damaged, and it is not as beautiful as it could have been. Like the trumpet, we are to be instruments in the hands of the Lord. The trumpet is entirely at the service of the musician, and that is how it makes a beautiful sound. Like the servant who comes in from work only to wait upon his master, we are to dedicate our entire person to the service of the Lord, so that He can use us to perform those wonderful actions of faith. When we act with faith, we do not do so alone, but with the Lord, focused on His powerful activity rather than on our own abilities. The source of all action is the Lord and not us. Only with a total dedication of a servant do we find the power of faith. Faith then entails a joyful dependence on God, God who performs miracles, saves His people, and lifts them up. This dependence is joyful because we know that Jesus is a servant too. And just as he shares his servitude with us, he also shares his glory. The peace he has, he shares with us. The life he shares with us in the Eucharist. Jesus is entirely dedicated to both the Father and to the Church, and we, like him, are called to be entirely dedicated to God, aligning all of our thoughts and actions to God. So, as you dread the upcoming workday, or are simply tired of the dull, monotonous labor we engage in, when you clock in and begin your work, recall the root of our life, our faith in Christ the servant. Maybe saying a phrase like, "In Christ I trust," or "Jesus be with me this day," can help us get through our work, especially when we feel tired or if we feel that we are overworked. Even dedicating our work to God for that day, in fact, makes it a prayer. And even the work we perform at home, for we know that keeping a home is in fact work, even that can involve Christ as we focus ourselves on him in his ability to save us. When we serve our family, we dedicate ourselves to Christ who lives in our homes just as he does in this church. When we are too tired from work to properly show love and attention to our family, we can learn from Jesus that simply sitting with our family in silent prayer is a way of loving and serving them. When our spouse is hurting because of emotional trauma, or when we despair because our children have left the church and lead misguided lives, we can have hope, for our faith is not in our own abilities to solve problems, but in God's saving work. Maybe miracles won't happen. Maybe we won't be able to perform mighty deeds. But recognizing our total dependence on God, that spurs our faith. Faith, then, is not a superpower. We are not superheroes just because we have faith. We might not be able to make miracles happen, but faith is and must be rooted in our total dependence on God. Christ challenges us with the gospel today to direct our entire selves to God and to humbly recognize our dependence on him. It is God who acts, and we, like humble servants and beautiful instruments, work with Christ. Christ, the servant of servants, is with us as we serve our communities at work, in our homes, and in charitable activities like the food pantry, St. Vincent de Paul, or assisting the homeless. When we work with Christ, we are not overburdened, for Christ revives us. But when we are tired from the day, because we are not perfect, we can rest in Christ. He also gives us his life and his very self today at Mass. And so I ask to recognize the activity of Christ in your life, Christ the servant who is there with us, especially today as you receive the Eucharist and become more configured to Christ, who is our life, our hope, and the source of our faith.